banked days at the end of the year for test readministration. We no longer need those days at the end of the year, so I am bringing an amended 26-27 calendar. And you would have thought it would be easy to just add days on those banked days, and it was not. So I'm going to tell you a couple of the changes that this draft brings. There was a teacher workday on April 5th. That has been changed to a student day. That changed a track in and track out on October 6th and 7th. There was like a 1 day. It changed to a 2 day, 3 day split. It does keep the 2-week winter break that everyone loves and aligns with the other calendars. It keeps the first day on July 7th, which was a request from that committee to start on Tuesday, July 7th, instead of starting on Monday, July 6th. That gives them an extra day for clopening, which is year-round has to close and open like all in the same week. And it keeps the teacher workday on June 30th, which they like because that's the last day of the fiscal year. So that allows them, the staff, people who are working, to have that one teacher workday in case they are separating from the district. So I welcome any questions that you have about this updated year-round 26. So this is for next school year.
Al, is there any comments, questions, or concerns? All right, seeing none, I guess we can move on.
All right, we will move Dr. Robinson, I hate to ask if you would quit.
I will, I got you.
Thank you. So the next set of calendars, Dr. Robinson, I want to talk about are the early college drafts. These are also for the 26-27 school year. The early colleges align their calendars with their college and university partner, so they usually come in and just do a year in advance. I don't have a lot to share because they actually work on their own calendars to make them align with their college and university partner. I count to make sure that they have 177 days. I look for important days like Election Day. And so each of these calendars starts early August because that's when their university partner starts, although they start on different days. Their spring fall breaks are a little different. They each do have November 3rd for Election Day. They each have a 2-week winter break. They each have a spring break that is in March. For this particular year, 2027, there is no primary election in March, so none of the calendars have an election date in March. And then they all end the end of May, kind of the end of May. Again, these calendars are for the coming school year.
Any questions regarding the calendar? Just discussed.
Okay. So we'll move to the 27-28 calendars. And Dr. Robinson, I see you're restarting. We can start with year-round.
You want to start with year-round 27-28?
Yes, please. So this calendar has a lot of, well, first off, the first day is on Wednesday, July 7th. Thank you, at the request of that committee. The committee that creates this calendar, or created this calendar, is made up mostly of admin at the year-round schools. There's a couple of central staff, sometimes a couple parents. It's a really tight calendar, so I don't get a lot of community input, although community members are welcome to join this committee just like any other committee. There is a work day on August 20th, which aligns with the other calendars, so all 3 calendars, year-round, modified, and traditional, will have a work day. You'll see the drafts have a teacher work day on August 20th, in hopes that if academics is hosting something, all the calendars are available, all teachers are available. There is a teacher work day on November 2nd for election and March 7th, because this is the 27-28 calendar. So in March of 2028, there is a primary date. So there's a teacher workday on March 7th. There is a teacher workday on June 19th, and then a teacher workday on June 30th. But you will notice there are split weeks. There are a couple of split weeks, I think there are 3, where there's a 1 day, which is not ideal at all. But when you start one thing, it kind of dominoes, and you still end up with sometimes more split weeks. There are a total of 6 split weeks, but the others are like a 2-day, 3-day split, which is a little bit better for parents to send their children for 2 days or for 3 days. I think that's all I have to really share, but I'm happy to answer any questions that you have.
So, Ms. Anderson-Powell, does that 28 calendar also include November as a work day for the election?
Yes, did I not say that? It has November 2nd and March 7th.
Gotcha. I didn't hear it. I'm not
Okay, that's
logged
fine.
in yet. Thank you for
And maybe I didn't say it, I'm sorry, I thought I did, maybe I didn't. Yes, so both election days are covered in this one.
Thank you. Any questions? Ms. Coughlin?
You're just saying on this particular one, right?
That well, all of them will have it, but I
Right,
mean the
no.
March 7th?
My question was about the traditional calendar. I think when you said that's all I have for now, I just
Oh,
want to
that's
make
all I
sure
have for this
that-
particular
okay,
calendar,
just
I'm
make sure.
sorry, yeah.
Thanks.
I'm just doing one calendar at a time. That's-
Yep.
Gotcha. So I'll follow up with you, Ms. Coughlin, when we get to
Okay.
the tradition.
Any other questions about year-round? Okay. The next calendar present, Dr. Robinson, is the modified, 27-28 modified calendar. So this is that wonderfully sweet calendar. That committee decided to start on Thursday, July 22nd. There is a teacher workday on August 20th, which you will see on all 3 of the calendar of the drafts. They have the 2-week track out. This is the calendar that's 9 weeks in, 2 weeks out. So they have a 2-week track out, and then an extra workday coming back in on October 11th after the track out. You'll see there's a teacher workday on November 7th. And then they have the Thanksgiving break, the winter break, an extra teacher workday on January 4th. They have a teacher workday on February 21st, and that's just kind of to break up that long instructional time. And then they have a teacher workday on March 7th, again, like you saw on the other calendar for the primary election, 2-week break, an extra day around Good Friday, and then they get out the Friday before Memorial Day.
I'm looking at March, between 20, I believe the primary should be that first Tuesday, which is the 6th, not the 7th.
Oh, my goodness, thank you.
Yeah, I noticed that too.
Okay, so I need to change that on all of them, right? Because I think I have the
It's Tuesday,
I
March
thought it was
7th.
right on the one.
no, I think the 7th is right, but maybe the days are wrong
Days
on
are
this
wrong.
calendar.
They
Yeah, I
are.
was saying that Tuesdays, typically the first.
You're right. Okay, so I need to renumber this calendar and then make it on Tuesday. I will do that. Thank you.
Is correct on the traditional.
I'm looking up here at the screen.
Okay, yeah, if you're looking at the screen, and that's the one I have in my hand, too. But the traditional calendar is correct, the numbers are
Yes.
correct?
2028.
Thank you for noticing that.
March the 7th and Tuesday, 2028.
Got it.
January 1st, I'm on all the days.
Okay, I'll make that update. Thank you. Somehow, the numbers are jumbled in there. But I will make that update. Thank you for noticing that. Okay, so Tuesday the 7th. Got it. Any other questions or notices of errors? Okay. All right, so I'll update that before we bring that back for approval. And now, the 27-28 traditional calendar. Ms. Caulfield, do you want to ask your question first, or do you want me to do a little talking first?
I think the concern was around the December break, that I had gotten a couple of emails about the teachers having the workday on the 20th and 21st, rather than it being part of the break.
Okay.
So I just wanted to know how we can
So I
discuss that.
don't know a fix for that, but I'll tell you why. So teachers have to work 215 days. We run calendars of 177 student days, 11 holidays, 10 annual leave or vacation days, and that leaves 17 teacher workdays. So on this particular calendar, and I'm kind of jumping over what I was going to present, there are only 10 vacation or annual leave days, the pink days. There are only 10 of them. Usually, we try to spread them out over spring, Thanksgiving, winter break, and spring break. But there are not enough vacation days to spread them all out. So you have the vacation day on November 24th. That's one. And then you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for winter break, and then 4 for spring break. So the fix would be move a vacation day or 2 vacation days from spring break and make those teacher work days. Move some around. There are not enough vacation days to fill up those days. And I can't move the blue days. The holidays come from the state.
Right.
So I can't just swap out a blue day.
So that was going to be my second question, was in March, I noticed for the spring break that they also had a teacher workday. So that kind of puts them in a position where they can't have that vacation week with their family. and
Correct.
That just really makes it pretty
If they don't
tough
have the
on them.
time.
Big league.
So I'm happy to take recommendations. I'm happy to take recommendations and go back and work with the calendar committee again.
Are they required to have a teacher workday each month?
The district has asked, it's not a requirement, but that is a preference, that there be something each month. A teacher workday, a holiday, a vacation day, that each month have something. That's just part of the parameters, kind of the wishes of the district leadership. So if you tell me, Tamani, they don't have to have a teacher workday every month, I could take the one off of February, but I still don't have enough vacation days to fill in all of the other days. So the one thing that I've thought about is we could move, so April 17th is a teacher workday that's just aligned to make that Easter weekend a longer weekend because the spring break doesn't align. So I can either move spring break down 2 weeks so that it does not align with the third quarter and put it on the 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th. That makes a long time before their spring break, because spring break is late that year. But that would that would give you an entire 5 days out. I would still leave a teacher workday on the 27th to align with the end of the quarter on the 24th. So that's something that could be done for spring break. I don't have that same quick solution for winter break.
So does January 24th help that option if we move?
So
Well, I guess we're still stuck.
Not-
we get some consensus.
Sure.
Just to, because I know the vice chair has some comments and questions too, and I just want to go around and make sure everyone has input on this.
Yeah. Do we want to let her present at all? Anything
Sure.
else first?
That is, well,
I'm looking at the 27, 28 traditional.
Yeah, okay.
jump right in.
All right, so, I notice on the year-round calendar, as, you don't have to get them out, that we have a lot of weeks where 5 days, 5 days, 5 days, 5 days. And then we turn to traditional calendar, and we have a lot of 4-day school weeks. And that doesn't include the weather stuff that we have to deal with. And that puts a lot of stress on families that have to find childcare, whether it's one parent or two parents or stuff like that. I don't, I would like, so I hear about it a lot, like, and people filling out their calendars, they're like, oh my goodness, it's so many weeks that we have a day off. So that's one thing. The other thing is, on this calendar, we're not really prioritizing an end of quarter day, I don't see, for, it's like a few days later sometimes, it's on a, I know the end of the first quarter one is like on,
November 2nd.
which is a big election day, and our schools have, and it's going to be busy because it's a presidential election year. And so I would rather, and this is just my own, as one person, prioritize the end of the quarter versus trying to get every single community date. I know we're very diverse, and I welcome students and staff that need to take, to me, it should be an excused absence for any religious observation day. But having fewer four-day school weeks, prioritizing the end of the quarter for the workday for teachers to be able to catch up, like if the quarter ends on the 19th, either the 19th or the 20th is their workday, so they have that. That's just me. And I actually really appreciate that you kept spring break in the same area, and because once it gets really late, you have that big break, I don't think that's, I think it's good to have it the same. I've argued for that in the past, and so I appreciate y'all doing that. I know it's not convenient all the time, but, you know, this is, we have to think about our students and the continuous education that they need to get, and getting those days in before end of grade testing, because we have a lot of days after end of grade testing, so I really want to prioritize the before of that.
Can I ask if you are suggesting moving October 11th to, well, that would put the quarter one day earlier.
Yeah.
So moving October 11th to October 26th?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have just as a general principle, like giving staff the day after a quarter, or asking staff, ask our teachers, hey, would this be effective for you?
So so I took these calendars
Yeah.
to the Superintendent's Advisory, Teacher Advisory Council, am I saying that correctly? That particular one was not a concern. Their concern was the 27th, having that teacher workday on the 27th of spring break. They were not as concerned, or did not have many questions about when the quarter ends on one day and there are several days until the next teacher workday.
Yeah.
That did not seem to be a concern.
Right.
On the feedback, it was really about the 27th being a teacher workday. So let me tell you, I just want to tell you some other things the committee thought about.
Yeah.
So we know we want to take November 2nd as Election Day. There was a concern that putting a teacher workday on October 27th, and then having one, even if you move the 11th, having it on the 27th and then having one the very next week, just felt
Too close.
too close. I'm just sharing what the committee shared, that felt really,
We do it.
Close. We do it a
It's
lot.
on the calendar. I mean, it's
Right.
literally the next November 2nd, and then there's a holiday on the 11th, and then
But the holidays we can't.
January 17th, and then we have a workday on the 24th.
right, so the holidays I can't.
I understand that, but
Yeah.
the principle.
Right. So the other question that you had was about if the quarter ends on January 19th, putting a teacher workday on January 20th, but because there was already a holiday on the 17th that we can't change, the committee was like, well, you don't want, although this week we're in, because of weather, and now there's a teacher workday, we're bookend by days out, but that would be out Monday, in Tuesday, in Wednesday, out Thursday, in Friday. So that was why the
Well, I
committee
would-
decided not to do that one. Although 2 Mondays back-to-back aren't ideal either.
My point, my larger point is that we have a lot of 4-day without taking into consideration weather, and it's impacting families. And we keep trying to add workdays to cover everybody in the community. And we got to be focused on students and staff and what that's my priority. not
Okay.
Trying to pick up, that would be my feedback. I'd love to see one with fewer of community workdays and more focused on what is staff and students
Okay.
and what's the impact on all of our families.
Okay, so the teacher workdays, because teachers still have to work that number of days, that puts the teacher workdays just outside of the instructional calendar. I can make one that looks like that and let you guys see it if you want me to do that.
I mean, I guess my concern would be if this has already went before the superintendent's teacher advisory committee and they've given their okay, then another calendar would undo what they had consensus around.
Right, and like I said, their only question was about the 27th, and my recommendation for the 27th is to move the teacher workday on the 17th to April 3rd, so that perhaps they can do something else on the 27th, but still have a teacher workday on the 3rd that kind of aligns with the end of the quarter. That might help some of them. But I'm happy, I work at your will, so I'm happy to do whatever y'all want me to do. I'm happy to make a calendar like that.
So Dr. Ng, Ms. Rice.
This is not so much a recommendation, but just kind of a general question. And anybody who's been a teacher can chime in. But I mean, on a teacher work day, is it more productive to have one day here, one day there, versus having like 2 consecutive days, or like, to be able to get more things done? Just bouncing it out there.
I mean, in my experience, I think it always comes down to those teacher work days because you never know, the calendar is the calendar, but when you're in it every day and there's no break or no weather, you need a mental health break, or a break to get caught up, or a date to utilize, get your grade book up to date, to have parent-teacher conferences, to participate in professional development. So I think that's my opinion about it. I think for me is the more you can get, if the more that we can put on the calendar, that does not interrupt teaching and learning, but also gives teachers those breaks to do the administrative things that teachers don't get to catch up on is important.
I mean, that's generally, I think the chair said it completely, that trying to give them an opportunity to address some of those things that they otherwise wouldn't do. And so when you've had an entire month without any teacher work day, normally that's going to end up, that could actually be 6 to 8 weeks, because you could have had 2 weeks in the middle of January, nothing in February, and then the next work day is 2 weeks into March. So it could be an extended time. So generally, we do try to put in those work days for the reason that he's talked about. But again, you're subject to the calendar and what happens with weather days and things of that nature that you don't control.
That was another reason for kind of having, even though now we have some other weather makeup options that don't rely on teacher work days, but that was another reason to have something each month, or a teacher work, so that if we needed it for weather makeup, hopefully we won't have another year like we've had this year, fingers crossed. But that was another reason. But it was also at the request of a former board to find a way to provide some relief each month for teachers.
Which is important. As we look through the teaching working conditions surveys, that is important. Dr. Ng, did you have a follow-up? All right, so I'll go Ms. Rice, Dr. Jobe, and Ms. Caulfield.
I just want to ask a question around what's most effective for the board to have a draft prior to bringing it to our staff to make their decisions, and then bring it back to them for us to bring a final piece, because I want to be as effective as possible. I hope my question is being understood, because if this is just for the sake of keeping stress levels down, staying in that wellness domain, right? Can we, because for me as a board member, if this is said this is a draft and this is coming to us as a board to make decisions and make edits, I am concerned about staff's feeling of their time being meaningful, of their thought process being meaningful, so they can be as effective as possible. If in the future, if it comes to us, then go to them, say, this is just what the board thought, right? Just thought. And in the process of you making your decisions, for we to give it to them for the final approval, then that's what it is, because I just feel a little redundant. And then I feel if something comes to us and it's a draft, let it be a draft. Don't tell us it's a draft and you've already made your decisions. And so that's the problem that I'm trying to see. How can we be most effective as a board with everyone's time and everyone's work, let their work be meaningful? Because I feel like whatever suggestion we make, there's a counter conversation, and I want, because if it really is, this is what the calendar is, then let it be that, and then make sure if it's just preliminary, or what? Or is there really meaningful conversation around these topics? I'm just being honest. Which one are we going to do? So I don't know what's most effective for staff, that it really is a draft form and say, this is it, we haven't taken it to the teachers, or there's a few people that's look at it, this is what we have, what are you all thoughts, like the things that Mr. Hershey is saying or Ms. Cofield is saying, and then really take it back to the people who are going to make the decision about what our calendar looks like, to present it to us and just say, we need you all to do this and do it in an action item or put it in consent, because they've already made the calendar. I'm just being honest. They've already made the calendar. This is what they're saying we can do or works best. So for us to come in and try to shift it, how much energy are we spending in an effective way to do that?
So in years past, there have been recommendations that I've taken back and created a new calendar for the board to look at, for the committee to look at. It is truly a draft. And if you see something that you would, as the board, that you would like for us to focus on, like focus on the teacher work days at the end of the quarter and not community requests, I'm happy to do that.
Yeah, for me, it's not about happiness, it's about how effective we're going to be. Is it effective to do it that way, is all I'm asking. That's the question. Is it effective? Or do we need to just take the recommendation of our staff when it comes to our calendar, knowing that they've looked at all of those perspectives, or we send an email about what we would consider them to look at when they're creating it? I'm just looking at board effectiveness. I'm not asking any other questions than effectiveness.
Right. And this calendar also went to Chiefs and then went to STAC.
Right.
And members of STAC were able to share their feedback. And as I mentioned, their one concern was a spring break. And I'm like, I don't know how to fix it. I've one little recommended fix, but there are just not enough vacation days to go around. But I have an idea about, moving the 17th to the 3rd, which might give them some help. Moving the teacher work days out of the student instructional calendar just puts them on the front and back end. Most teachers don't like that. They sometimes balk at me when I put 5 days at the beginning of the year. Tamani, that's too many. We don't need 5. And when I put 2 at the end, sometimes they'll say, Tamani, we don't like that. We don't need 2 at the end. So, we try to create the best calendar we can, but it is a draft. And so
So, Mr. Chairman, I would say, Ms. Rice, I think it's good when the board has an opportunity to have a conversation about the calendar, because you also would have the perspectives of teachers that have talked to you, parents that have talked to you, and teachers as well. So to me, I think it ends up being an effective time where they can see that the people that represent them have brought those to the staff, and we use that to determine what is going to be that final calendar. And I think what Tamani will tell you that when people end up getting on the calendar committee, they see how difficult it is, and really the calendar law is kind of blocked us into these dates to where it's never going to be perfect. But I think it's good for them to actually hear that the board has talked about their concerns, and then we've been able to go back and adjust and modify as much as we can. And so I'm like you, I do want to be productive with my time, but when it comes to the calendar, I think it's very important that they hear this conversation, because whatever we come out with, you're going to get some more phone calls.
Absolutely.
Haggerty, I think you had a...
Thank you, and I apologize for going out of order, Mr. Chair, but I wanted to address Ms. Rice's question, because I'm not sure, and Ms. Rice can please correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm not sure that some of the responses have really heard what she was saying, or at least how I took it, which was, if we are talking about board time and board efficiency, it seems to me, again, I'm going to put my old man hat on, over the benefit of the years, it would be more efficient to give that board input on the front end to address philosophical questions about placement, general placement of workdays and some of that before it goes through all the work. Ms. Anderson Powell has come to us before and explained in great detail everything that goes into the calendar, the number of groups that have input, the number of advisory committees, the number of community groups. And what happens is that once months of work have gone into it, it comes back to us, it shows up on the calendar, we'll get a newspaper or a television story about it, someone in the community or a teacher will hear something, they'll reach out to a board member. And so I'm going to disagree with our superintendent. I think the effectiveness of the board comment is more on the front end, not on the back end, coming in and discussing those concerns, because I think we're human and we succumb to recency bias, right? Who came to us the most recently? If we hear from 2 or 3 or 4 teachers about something, we might think this is a big concern, whereas you might have had dozens of teachers from all over the district contributing to the calendar on the front end whose opinions we did not have access to. And so I have seen where we have moved teacher workdays at the request of a small number of teachers, and then only after they're moved, we hear from many more teachers who are upset about the move, even though we thought we were being responsive to what we were hearing. And so to the point about being effective, I really think giving that input on the front end, and then having someone say, this is the result of everything we've had, we know you have to vote on it, so if you see a glaring error, right, if the calendar that we brought you has an error on it, there's 2/13 or something, yeah, let's fix it. But otherwise, I think our input should be on the front end, rather than trying to second guess a lot of what's coming to us later without the benefit of all the work the committee has done. That's how I took
Thank
it.
you for being the Toshiba Whisperer. You are correct with what I was saying, but you always seem to know how to say it better.
I want us to be very mindful of time, because this has gone over and we have a robust work session. So I have Dr. Joe and Ms. Caulfield, and then we'll figure out some guidance again for you, Prosper.
I very quickly was just going to say, I think we should leave spring break where it is, even if we do have to have a work day in there that somebody has to take leave on if they want to leave or not be able to meet up later or something like that. It just, having taught for as long as I did, it was really hard to wait till the end of March for a major break. I mean, having to wait till mid-April is so long. And then the time that you have after that for EOGs, it just goes by like that. And so, but I think that we should go back to what Ms. Rice and Mr. Haggerty said, like, let's try to respect what they've done now, but maybe we do this process in the future.
Ms. Caulfield.
So I just wanted to kind of follow up with saying, I understand the advisory board, and I think it's great, but we did actually get feedback from teachers once they did see this being proposed as a result of that. But I was going to ask, and maybe that is a process that we change going forward, but if the March 27th is a teacher work day. I'm not sure if this is possible, but if we were to swap that with January 24th and make it a solid vacation week in March, and then they had the option of taking the day before Thanksgiving as a day off for a teacher work day.
What you said, swap it with January 24th, those are both teacher work days.
I'm sorry, November 24th.
Okay, I was like, those are both teacher work days.
November 24th.
I mean, that is certainly doable.
They already have Thursday and Friday off, so if they want to take the day off before as well, then that's one of their alternative days.
And that
That
would
might
work.
give them The continuous.
I mean, that will work.
And do we know how many of these are going to be protected versus unprotected?
The schools, somebody else to speak on academic things. As I understand, the schools determine,
The school makes a determination of what
Right.
days are going to be protected and not protected, and it's always done in the beginning of the year so that teachers can fill out their calendars for it.
So even if we make this swap, a principal can then come and undo whatever decisions are hard conversation that the board was trying to have. So
right.
I think, I hear the discussion, but I really think it might just be best to let the calendar stand as is, and principals and teachers can make those decisions.
So I would like to make a recommendation on my own calendar, which I never do. The workday that's on the 17th, I think if we move that to April 3rd, that might give school staff the ability to say the 27th is not required because you have April 3rd, which they can do their end of quarter. I'm kind of looking at Dr. Hill like they could do their end of quarter work on April 3rd, which would still allow them a whole week. Now, Ms. Caulfield's recommendation could also work. If I say, for so long, we've given teachers an annual leave day on the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, that's like that. That's how we've always done it.
Yeah.
We don't have to do it that way. But I know teachers are accustomed to having an actual vacation day on the Wednesday before, so they don't have to choose. But they're having to choose here. So
It just seems to give them a whole continuous week versus having an extra.
well, it's still
day
going to
and
look like a
half
teacher workday. If we don't change it, and I put the workday on the 3rd, it's still going to look like a workday. But you're right, if you move the annual leave day from the 24th to the 27th, then it looks like a regular spring break.
So I think if that's the recommendation that you have made and you're comfortable with that, I guess we can get a thumbs up because I really want to get us back on our time.
Sorry.
No, you're fine. I understand the discussion, but I just wanted to make sure this is a...
Chair,
Yes.
point of clarity.
Yes, ma'am.
Are we in referencing November 24th being changed to a vacation day from March 27th?
Making March 27th the vacation day and making November 24th the teacher workday. That's what I heard, Ms. Caulfield, is that right?
And that is the thumbs up, thumb down recommendation that we're doing?
Well, if that's the consensus, but I also thought that Ms. Anderson Powell had a recommendation too.
I did,
We're going
to move the
go for it.
17th, the teacher workday. Dr. Robinson,
Please say
can you
the
scroll
month.
down a little?
Yeah, you have to tell us the month, not just.
Yeah.
I'm sorry,
Clarity,
April
yeah.
17th?
Thank you.
Sorry, I'm so sorry. April 17th, moving it up to April 3rd, so that then there is another teacher workday when they come back that could be required by a school to, that, you know, for that end of quarter work that they need to do.
It's just odd to have a random Monday versus
Chair,
full week.
Chair, another point of order, point of clarity, please. Two things. One, moving November 17th to November 27th, as well as moving April 17th to April 3rd. So is it two changes or just one? No, I see it. I need her to tell me.
I would,
Is it
either
both or
recommendation,
one?
either one.
Either or, but only one.
Correct.
Okay, either or, but only one.
So, Ms. Anderson Powell, would it be possible to bring those revisions back?
I can, sure.
That we can go from there, because I don't think that we'll be able to get some consensus on this at this current moment.
So I'll make 3 drafts that show only teacher workdays that are allowed at the end of the quarter. One that switches March 27th and November 24th. And one that switches April 17th and April 3rd. Is that okay?
That works. Thank you, Ms. Anderson Powell. Thank you.
Thank you, Ron.
Folks cannot say that we do not take calendars seriously at this table.
We do take calendar very
She said
seriously.
just leave it to them.
Thank you all.
Thank you. All right, so now we will turn to our CIP summary update.
Good afternoon, Chairman Swanson, board members, Superintendent Taylor. Also, Dave and I are here to present the executive summary for fiscal year 27 through fiscal year 33. This is a 7-year capital improvement program that we're presenting fiscal year 27 allocations for your review and future approval, as well as looking into the future for 6 years, which has potentially bond referendum implications for fiscal year 28 and 29. Get the slideshow up, please. In your package, there is a overall one-page summary that might be easier to follow, and but also gives you a one-screen view of what I'm going to present in several slides. Thank you. Next slide, please. So the presentation is in alignment with our strategic plan and aim points, which is the next slide. Today we're presenting the funding summary and schedule for the 7-year program. We'd like to provide updates for new and existing school additions and changes. We are seeing growth in the southwest part of the county as well as the east and northeast, and we'll see how those go in alignment with that. And then also present the program requirements and provide definitions for that. I'm prepared to talk about cost construction data, but we would also like to go in depth with that at the April 7th meeting so we can get into detail and address specific questions on the project. So the main overview of this is to give you the priorities for the 7-year program so that you can make budget decisions as well as bond referendum decisions. So the new school funding, we have got one new school this year that we've added to the list from last year, which is Little Creek Elementary School in Zebulon. We have acquired the property for that, and the school has been named, and we're planning that for a completion of 2032. I'm not going to go into every allocation amount to save time, but if you have any questions at any time, please let me know.
We'll save questions at the end. We'll do the questions at the end.
Thank you. The other change is we've added a middle school as a to be determined in lieu of just a school. So that's on the radar. We haven't named those schools yet, but we do have them in our focus and an idea of where we're going with those. Next slide, please. Existing schools. Lockhart and Brentwood Elementary Schools currently are in construction. Athens Drive, Briarcliff, and East Garner are currently in design, with Athens Drive starting in this summer with enabling work. We'll be beginning construction on Briarcliff in fall of 26, East Garner in fall of 27, as well as Lee in fall of 27. Cary High School in fall of 29. So those are all the way up to Wendell. We're on the previous executive summary last year. We've got 2 new schools that we are adding, which is Washington Elementary School. This is going to be an in-depth life cycle MEP update, as well as addressing fit and finishes on both the 1920s building as well as the mid-1990s renovation. The gym at the school was renovated several years ago. It's in really good shape, and we're trying to bring it up to that same level. This school was not on the CIP. It was removed in 23 for additional funding reallocations, and we brought it back. It is a priority. East Wake High School is a new school. We're seeing the growth and the need for a new high school with intentions of keeping the existing school to be used as a future swing space for schools that will be doing up in that area of growth. You'll see from last year, Zebulon Middle School dropped one level down, and that is for timing on a swing space. We'll be using this existing school at East Wake as a swing space, so that timing had to drop that down once. That's the explanation for that. The remaining to be determined schools, we funded those at an elementary school level. That is subject to change as those needs come in the future. On the existing schools, we have a priority to eliminate mobiles. That is a high priority for us. We're also trying to build in flex and capacity in those existing schools where needed, and also a focus on utilizing swing spaces in lieu of swinging on site for reduced risk and during construction, as well as just a better academic environment, and we can build the schools quicker. Next slide. This slide is for school programming requirements. I'm not going to go through every one in detail, but I'd like to highlight that the top portion are debt funded by the county. The lower ones are cash funded. Those do have some implications if you're trying to move it from one to the other. They really don't like to move debt or cash into debt and vice versa. So that's considerations. Is it impossible? No, but it's a difficult thing for us to do. Looking at the highlights, we've nearly doubled since 2021 our life cycle for building components funding. We also are working on life cycle furniture and equipment. We've started looking at updating our playgrounds, which we implemented in our first program this year for $1.7 million. And that's a need that I would recommend and we recommend continuing in future years. Prep funding, which is the partial renovations when we're not doing a full renovation of an existing school. This allows us to go in, just like Washington, to renovate a gym or another building. And then you got technology, devices, and infrastructure. I'd like to highlight on infrastructure when we're doing an existing school renovation. They're paying for that in IT upgrades. If we're doing a new school, that's built into the capital project. And the last one is the space needs analysis and priority, which we call SNAP, or for non-traditional school improvements, as well as back of house items, transportation, facilities, and that type. So the next two slides, or actually the next slide, is a total funding. So for fiscal year 27, which is what we're bringing as a proposed allocation for new schools, would be $60.6 million. The existing schools would be $189.7 million. And program requirements is $170.2 million, for a total for fiscal year 27 of $420 million. Looking forward at fiscal year 28 and 29 for bond referendum, that totals to $832.3 million, and the county is recommending a bond funded portion of that of $680 million. So the last two slides are some details on what those program items are. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer those.
Thank you. So we'll start with just a round of questionings, and folks have any, we'll start with Victor.
I want to go back, something you just said around the 419 to 420 mark. You talked about an emphasis on swing space being utilized, so rather than trying to do renovation projects on site.
Yes, sir.
What swing space will you utilize for middle school and high school projects?
Currently, we've got Spring Forest and we have Garner Ninth Grade Center, but they have limitations on the numbers. East Wake, the existing school, would be one, and we've also brought a possibility of West Cary as a potential swing space in the future.
Specifically, when I look at the projects that we have and that you've listed, I see several projects that are not proximate to those swing spaces. So is that a realistic goal?
It's a movement in the right direction. I think we need to prioritize getting swing spaces across the county. I think that it is a good movement in the right direction, but yes, there is additional needs that if we can identify those, and there is some pain associated with identifying that. So I think, yes, we need more.
So I agree with you 100%. I know that typically what we see in the CIP are school projects as opposed to administrative and other building projects. At some point, should we see a project for building more swing space in this 7-year plan?
Yes.
And I currently don't see any swing space in the plan, and if added, I wouldn't see it until after 2037, is that right?
Yes, East Wake would be your first opportunity, and we will be, as we're looking at, there's 3 schools that are in that area that are potentially in need. We got Wendell, we can swing to Marshburn Road, but in the future, we got Knightdale Elementary School coming down to maybe, well, definitely what's on there is Zebulon Middle School.
And again, I support your vision 100% for utilizing swing space rather than trying to continue classes on site in an active construction site. I just I don't see how you will do that with the swing space that's available unless more swing space is constructed or acquired somehow. Okay, that's all I need to hear. Thank you, Mr. Chair Swanson. Ms. Rice.
It seems like Mr. Harry and I are on the same page today. While for me, it's unacceptable. I'm sorry. Mr. Harry is so much more polite. It's unacceptable. One, what I already have going on in my own district, and it's not okay for me, colleagues, that every time we get here, we get minimal answers, and we get silence like it's okay. It's not okay for the numerous families that we serve, and it's not okay that we aren't being a little bit more aggressive and assertive to trying to make sure that we have these swing spaces. I don't see it here yet, but I know it's coming probably before 2037, even with Hunter, right? We're looking at this, what are we going to do? You said just currently 12 miles away, there is no swing space. So why do we continue to create silos that we're not, what are we going to do? What's the plan of action for what are we going to do? Because we're going to come right back, we're going to hear families fuss and be upset and frustrated. And are you saying that you're not doing it because we don't have the money, or you're saying that we're not quite there with our critical thinking and innovative space or mindset to find swing space? And is Wake County, as large as it is, don't have enough commercial property to do something with? Help me better understand your perspective, because we can't keep telling citizens we can't do it. It doesn't make sense.
If I could respond, so we currently are using swing space. In addition to the spaces that Mr. Cooney mentioned, Hilltop Needmore Elementary School is a swing space. You'll remember that Fuquay-Varina Elementary School is utilizing that space. That was a nice opportunity where we built that school, and we had to find a space for Fuquay-Varina. It could have done it on site. It was much more cost-effective and less disruptive to do that. So that was a nice opportunity. We were able to incorporate that space as swing space. The East Wake High School, I think it was mentioned 2037, it's 2032. The thought with East Wake High School is we would build a new high school on that campus. We would continue to utilize the existing facility as swing space. So that's an opportunity that is again presenting itself that we're trying to take advantage of. We don't often and don't always have these opportunities. So we have mapped out, and this past year, we did map out opportunities for that moving forward. In the past, yes, we've been looking at the existing swing spaces and those opportunities that presented itself. We haven't built a dedicated swing space because it's a finite amount of money. So which project don't you want would be really the question that we would be asking. We do have other plans for other swing space in the future as we go further out. The East Wake High School swing space opportunity is one where we have a lot of construction going on in the eastern part of the county, so that will be well served. And we saw where we could map out its future use for quite a few projects.
Thank you. Just concerned, I'm sorry, follow up, just what about Southeast Raleigh? What about schools in the downtown area and that space that have to be done? Do we have any thoughts on what we're going to do for swing space with that?
Well, we would have to look at what projects we do have for those areas. So if you look at the list, that's where we have the projects in this window of time. As far as Raleigh or southeast Raleigh, again, we'd have to see, is there a need, for a swing space to accommodate a project? At the current time, we're not thinking of one, but of course we would look at all opportunities as we do projects. And also, where we can do on-site swings, where we have ample site, and it's not disruptive and we don't have to have multiple phases, it works fine to do an on-site swing. It's just where those sites that are very compact and we have multiple phases. That's where it gets difficult, more disruptive and more costly, and that's where we try to avoid those.
Any other questions?
Thank you. I'd also like to go back to the program requirements, if we could. And, here, I'm going to be a broken record, but every time you bring this in front of me, I'm going to share my opinion that here under program requirements, we're showing on average $30 million a year in our capital budget being used for technology devices. Meanwhile, we have parents and families, teachers and students coming to us with health concerns about schools, mold, air quality, other projects that we should undertake to improve the health and safety of our buildings, and we're told we don't have enough money. We see here, under environmental ADA by your numbers, we're putting 1.3 to about maybe upwards of 1.6 million a year. You could double that and make only the slightest dent in those technology devices in that budget. And I just, at this point, I just want to implore my fellow board members, you're being brought a program for your review. This is just an update, but when it comes to you to vote and approve, you have the power to approve or disapprove or to provide input to staff about your priorities. If you want to prioritize technology devicement replacement, with a 1-to-1 student ratio over these important safety and health concerns, that is your choice and that is your vote. But I'm not going to, every time this comes up, I'm going to continue to raise my voice and say, these are not my priorities. And I believe this board should provide direction to the superintendent and this staff to make the changes, whether they're the changes I have been advocating for the past 2 years or changes of your own, changes that redirect and reprioritize this money to some of the important needs and concerns that are facing the district that I think our staff would like to address, but do not have the resources to address. And I'll just leave it at that, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
So, Mr. Chair, if I could, I'll first ask staff, I do think that there were reductions in the technology portion. Has that been reflected from what it was previously?
Not yet.
Not for the next fiscal year.
Okay.
Those, Sasha, I think those efforts are already set.
Correct. So basically, we are working based on the feedback we got from the board last month. We are looking at a lot of initiatives to see what is that we can do, given our current plan to, save a little bit of money and see where we can do it. So that is something we are working on it. Hopefully we'll come back to the board pretty soon to let you know what those strategies are.
Yes, and with the technology devices, that is what we need to hear from the board. What is that priority? One of the things that I will have staff to come back and talk about are those places where we know we need the technology in terms of testing purposes. And we know that all state testing is done online. We've got to have those devices. There's certainly changes that we can make with bring your own devices at the high school. Right now, even at elementary schools, we're not one-to-one in the sense that devices go home. They're not doing that. But even when you have a computer on wheels, that is still ultimately one-to-one. That's a device counter that has 23 computers. Kids are just not taking those home. So we will go back and look at what is absolutely required for the technology. Then I think that's where we can have that flexibility that we talk about.
Ms. Caulfield, Ms. Edmonds, and Dr. Jobe, and then we'll wrap up. So
I was just curious where you were seeing it. That's one thing I hadn't written down, because I have much more than that, like overall, and I know you can't get rid of all technology and devices and everything, but over the years, it's 217 million. Is that a
Total,
lot?
I was talking about per year.
Right, so we're at 28 million, right? I thought you said 1.2
No,
million.
I say, sorry.
That's the environmental ADA.
Oh,
So
okay.
where I was moving-
like,
the
wait
pot
a
I was
minute, I'm
taking
seeing
from and the
a
pot I
heck of
would
a lot
move
more
to.
than that. And that was my question, is that we are spending so much there, and we are getting feedback from families and parents that they would, especially in the younger grades, like to see more pen and paper. They want to see their kids. We've got them off the devices during class. We're getting really good feedback from that. And that is one of the highest numbers in there besides the life cycle building. So that's a concern. So when you're asking Dr. Taylor about our priorities, I don't know when we decide that, but that number is really pretty high. It's kind of like a comment, not really a question.
understood.
I wanted to ask a clarifying question. So, Mr. Strickland or Dr. Taylor, I don't know, with regard to the tech department is looking at that, is this starting at fiscal year 28 on? Are you saying that all those numbers are going to change, or 28, 29 is going to change?
They're subject to change.
And that's the discussions that are happening now?
Right, so for the next fiscal year, which is 26, 27, whatever they had in motion is pretty well set, but after that, everything's on the table.
Okay. All right.
And so when can those discussions be brought back to the board so everyone's abreast of what's happening? So therefore, once we're getting here, we're not redesigning programs, we're seeing that in the front end very soon. This discussion.
I think for FD&C staff, it is, we're the producer of the number. There are lots of inputs that go into what does that, and it's technology and academics. And so, and it's the board and what you all want done and how you want things delivered. So as that plan is developed and clarity brought to it, those reductions can absolutely be in future budget years, but those conversations are in their infancy now. We had them this year for next year, but there were things in place that needed to be followed through with. But in the upcoming year,
this next year, those conversations need to be held in earnest about what it is you all want implemented and how you want it implemented, and then the budget can be aligned with that.
I think for me, if we can bring this top of the year before we get deep into those budget discussions, so therefore it's aligned and we can move forward with figuring out how to adjust, making reductions, and then I guess that technology policy for me was supposed to guide some of those reductions because that would drive some of the conversation. So I guess we need to see both the technology policy and then start seeing this at the front end so we can make that.
And we've had a similar conversation around land, where you can see that is zeroed out for next year. We are in good shape right now with land. We are looking at some sites now, and I think land may be another category where we can tighten up some things in the future years. And one last plug, we did tighten some things up so we could work on our security efforts. We have taken that from 10 years back down to maybe 5. And if we can improve upon that, we will as well. And as Mark mentioned, one last point, you all said to us, you talked about playgrounds. So, we brought you all a plan. I think there are 13, maybe 12, 13 playgrounds. And the first has already been approved. I think it was at the last board meeting. So we're pushing that forward as well.
Mr. Chair, we'll be sure to, before the physical year 27 budget is finalized, we'll bring out those things to the board and have those recommendations before it is finalized.
Dr. Jovan, and we'll move forward.
Back to technology, I just want to clarify, we don't need one-to-one for testing because not every grade gets tested and not every grade is testing at the same time, right? So they can still do it in labs if we need it.
Well, they don't necessarily do it in labs, but what I mean
We
is
can
that...
roll in a code with,
Yeah. And that's the idea that if I've got an elementary school where grades 3, 4, and 5 are testing, the minimum thing that we have to do is to make sure we've got enough devices for those students to test at the maximum number that may be required to test in a day. But you're absolutely right. You don't have to have a device for every student, but the testing will probably be the minimum requirement, and then you can go from there.
and I guess my second question was, we talked during the February 8th meeting about a pilot program to pull back on the elementary school one-to-one. Is there a status on that, or did it ever move forward, or?
Are you talking about the discussion we had last month?
Yes.
Yeah, we are actually totally meeting. We are actually strategizing the whole thing based on the feedback the board has provided. So just to kind of step back, we're looking at two things. One of the major concern the board has is the pace at which we are moving, right? So we are looking at 26, 27 school year to see what are the things we can speed up on, including saving some of the dollar figures, right, to see where if there are opportunities. That's number one. Number two, we're also looking at a long-range plan, 27, 28, and beyond. So to answer your question, we are still kind of putting that plan together right now.
Okay, and part of that plan, just to make sure we're all clear, part of that plan is to pull back the one-to-one program in elementary school?
We are having those discussions with our academics teams right now.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Final quick question, Ms. Costello?
Yeah, I was just curious, and I don't know, perhaps I missed this, so I'll have to have a deeper conversation afterwards, but why would we pilot pulling back on devices if we could save money now and we know that we were already there all those years in the past? I mean, we're looking at this CIP for 2027, and we see a huge number there. So if we're trying to discuss this now, why do we have to pilot pulling back on elementary school one-on-one devices if, I mean,
We already
we
did.
were always there in the past, so why do you have to pilot something? I mean, that just puts it like another year after. See, we're talking about 2 more years before we pull back on just elementary school?
Well, we got to give them time to plan and actual, get materials, whatever they need. It's not just simply pulling it back.
Right.
I mean, Dr. Hill can answer, but that's what I would think.
And working in conjunction with technology, our plan to come back to you all is to look at those standards and those competencies of what our children are expected to do, so that we can have a more in-depth conversation about what the expectation is.
I could,
I think it's Ms. Coffin, unless you had something. I really want to wrap this one up. Ms. Coffin, was that?
Yeah, I just feel like sometimes you don't have to reinvent the wheel to get better results, so. That's
Well, thank you for that. We will move forward with our next item, which will be the My Future in C update. So,
Good afternoon, all. I'm Jeff Redmond with the My Future in C. I'm around with the county profile of Wake County. I'll give you a full explanation as we go on here.
making apologies for the delay on our agenda.
While you get an initial glance at that, I'll give you a little bit of background on the organization. So My Future NC is a statewide nonprofit. We set up a couple of years ago, 2019, immediately after the state passed into law an educational attainment goal that would cover all 100 counties, that would really feed the need that North Carolina had to match talent to opportunity in really the education workforce pipeline. So I come to you as a Wake County citizen, a former Wake County teacher, former Wake County school administrator, current parent of 2 girls at Wake Forest High School, very embedded, so this is a nice treat. I serve 15 counties though, as a part of this work, and so the work ends up becoming something that scales across the state in very, very micro, effective ways. The goal itself is actually centered on young adult, we'll call it early to mid-career adults, because that's what we can look at in any of the counties in North Carolina and feel comfort in terms of the economic prosperity and vitality that will follow them. However, we cannot do this work if we just look at adult learners. So we really trace it back and have a range of 4 to 44 as our age demographic that we focus on when we're conducting this work. I'm going to walk through a little bit about who we are, but I want to get to the data pretty quickly. That profile that you have is good capture. But us as a nonprofit, we're doing a few things. That data profile is one of our 3 legs of the stool. We also are a policy and advocacy organization, so we try to get the GA to listen to ways that we can effectively work the budget into more comprehensive, more impactful programs that will lead to educational attainment outcomes. And again, that goes from K-12 all the way through the adult learner. And then accelerated action. I'm one of 8 people across the state who represent the regions that North Carolina has, designated prosperity zones, and to try to, let's say, stimulate ecosystems of practice around educational attainment. All right, so where do we sit? This 2 million by 2030 goal was something that was really designed because the state realized that we were way behind on the talent we needed. And when we say 2 million, that's not just degree professionals. That could also be professionals with an industry credential. This is a big change in the last 10 years. Many of us came up at a time when it was degree or bust. It was right to workforce. The middle has grown tremendously. And so we're really trying to highlight that. So in the few years since we've been doing this work, we've seen, we're at about halftime. It's 5 out of the 10 years that we'll be able to count data. We've seen about 270,000 people gain some kind of industry recognized credential, whether it be that degree or the short-term certificate. And what we're now starting to see is it filter down to the high schools, even to the middle schools. So what does that mean in terms of the goal? Well, we're still a big gap short. To get to 2 million, we're going to have to really keep that same pace. What I'll mention, though, is that was an expectation that 2 million was out of a 3 million total count. That 3 million we're going to hit in 2027. So North Carolina continues to grow at a rate that we didn't anticipate, and so the reality is we'll probably need about 2.1 or 2.3 million to truly meet the need. But the acceleration has been there, and like I said, it's filtering down, as you'll see through the data. These profiles capture a number of different indicators, 18 in total, that will really customize for Wake County what the picture is in academic readiness, sequentially to college and career access, post-secondary completion, and workforce alignment. That way we can know that the decisions we make as a Board of Ed, as school leaders, will really lead to that pipeline continuity that we need to see in all 100 counties. Out of those 4 categories, though, it's 18 key performance indicators that break down from NC Pre-K all the way through labor market alignment, and as you're going to see, pretty much everything in between. I want to start with this. This was in TVJ about a month ago. It shows, and hard to see from there, I appreciate that, but it shows the triangle counties and where our average wage sits. So at the end of the day, when we talk about educational attainment, it isn't for educational attainment's sake. It's for the change in outcome, it's for the sheer prosperity that we can appreciate, citizen by citizen, across the state of North Carolina. A living wage, a thriving wage is really the goal. We want to see as many people walk into their adult life feeling confident that they can bring that living wage or that thriving wage home. They can be a good community member. They can be a net plus to society rather than a net minus, and be really impactful. So this number that we look at, which for Wake is very strong, no doubt about it, but lags behind Orange and Jordan County, talks about our adult population and where they sit. Which means that we have to trace back and look at, well, what are the interventions that could possibly be put in place. Best way to look at 25 to 44 is look at the 10 years of reform. This squarely falls into where the board's focus is. So last August, 109th graders walked into school for the first time. Those individuals might never have known each other. They walked around halls that were very unfamiliar. They were introduced to classes that, in many cases, were above where their expectations were. Out of those 100, we can fast forward the 4 years, and 9 of them won't graduate on time in Wake County. So 9 of them might eventually get across the finish line, but it won't be in that 4-year timeline. Of the 91 that are left, 24 won't make the transition into any kind of post-secondary institution. That could be Wake Tech for bio work, that could be UNC Chapel Hill, that could be a lot of places in between. So now we're down to only 2/3 of the original 100 in half the time. Doesn't mean that they won't go on to impactful lives, be caregivers, parents, start their own businesses, have a job that doesn't require that credential. But we have to be careful if we want that wage to go up to make sure that we're positioning them as well as possible. 9 of them will persist to their second year, leaving 58 left, and then 12 more won't get a degree or certificate within 6 years. So that leaves us down to 46 of those original 100. That's actually a very robust number. As you can imagine, Wake County leads the state just about in how many people get through that degree in 6 years. But it also leaves a large swath. Again, 2 million was out of 3 million. That's a 67 number that we want to see. So at least 20 just in Wake County alone that we need to get across that finish line so they can control their destiny a little better. All right, I'm going to break down the profile for you in a way that makes it a little bit more understandable. We're starting at the top. You're seeing the education level breakdown. This is those people with graduate, bachelor's, associate's degrees. Those are all positives. And then the short-term non-degree credential, there's a little asterisk there. That's because that's an estimate. Every county gets 7.5%. We don't count credentials. There's too many people who give them once students are either in high school or they've left high school, and they don't have to report back like BPI does, like the County Public Schools does. So we're left guessing that it's 7.5%. Odds are for Wake it's bigger. It's probably more like 10 to 12%. The gray areas are what we want to focus on. So these high school graduates, less than high school, and those folks that might have had touch with college but didn't move on. So work to do in small senses there, because as you can see, Wake County's 88% of the goal that was set for them in 2019, which is 300,000 out of the 2 million. 15% will come from this county alone. Again, not very surprising. I wanted to show your peers in the immediate triangle here, how Orange County and Durham have been doing as well. Obviously, this massive growth in Durham could be attributable to the work that they're doing with their young adults. I've seen some great programs there. but it's also in-migration. There's just a ton of people moving into Durham that bring that piece of paper with them. We like to give credit to the population piece, but to be honest, in North Carolina, we're actually doing better. This is a credit to the schools, community colleges, the workforce development boards. We have a 19% growth rate when it comes to those with a credential, post-secondary degree or credential, versus an 8% growth rate in the same population bracket. So we're doing things right here. That's very encouraging, but there's still some areas of focus. I'm going to back it up, and if you go to the back of the profile, down towards the bottom, you'll see the most recent data that we have for academic readiness. So our pre-K program, which is one of the many ways that students can get access to pre-K, only 47.4%. We just want to make sure that out of those parents who, aside from those parents who can afford preschool for their children, private, that we're not missing some kids in there. It sets kids up for kindergarten, and it frees their parents up to go get credentials of their own. Looking at the counselor, student-to-school counselor ratio, 309, you're going to see so many of these things, and you know it inherently from the work that you do. Counselors become the juncture point for so many opportunities for students, especially in high school. So ways that we can lower that number is going to shorten the caseload, help them familiarize themselves with the paths that these students have to take, and hopefully lead to better outcomes in the long run. And then I pulled out the CCP number, and this is something that I presented to Wake Tech 10 days ago, and I brought up to Dr. Rawls and his staff, 21.6. It's one of the lower rates in the state, and there's a lot of reasons for that. Wake is incredibly large, so it's hard to get that number to grow at the pace that some other counties and districts can. But this is absolutely one of the most emerging trends. It's one of 4 legs to the stool that I'll talk about in just a minute, of making sure that it's a high-quality experience for high schoolers. What you're also going to notice on the profile, down in the lower right, is the work that the CTE department is doing in Wake County Public Schools. Wake County is 2.5 times, puts out 2.5 times as many CTE credentials as any other district in the state of North Carolina. Mecklenburg is 2.5x behind us at the same population. So the CTE department got ahead of a wave that now is finding its new, vocational tech. What we grew up with is now relevant in a way that it hasn't been for some time. And the interesting part is, again, credentials are great. Industry value credentials are really what this is all about. We're seeing at least 10,000 of those credentials being recognized as industry value. We don't have a clean count on it. DPI doesn't share that information just yet, but we're hoping to get it. So what does that mean? So between what we saw with CCP, what we see with CTE, we're going to talk about apprenticeships in a little bit, these multiple avenues for students to be able to access, AP for many kids, or high flyers who are going to 4-year, everybody can find a place, and I can't say that about many other districts in the state of North Carolina. And you're doing it at mass. You're doing it with the largest population, so kudos there. Moving on to college and career access. These are usually, I'm kind of bringing up points of consideration. So the senior survey goes out every year. And in those intention surveys, the last year that we had in 2024, seniors said 90% of them plan to enroll, but only 73.8% did. So that is a key area to look at. Why are 17% of kids saying that they want to enroll but they didn't? Is it financial? Was there a burden to their family that they couldn't overcome? Was there an academic hurdle that they couldn't clear? I mean, these are key data points, and they tell us a lot. It's still much higher than what your peer and state average is, but when you have that many kids saying it, we just want to know for sure why they're not making it. A 62% FAFSA completion rate. FAFSA is about to change dramatically. We're about to get workforce Pell. We're going to see opportunities for not just youth, but young adults recently graduated to be able to access funds for short-term credentials, these same ones that I'm talking about. And all of this is going to channel through CTE when it comes down to the district level. Opportunities are going to be so rich for kids with funding, because you'll fill out one FAFSA that will give you your traditional Pell and it will give you your workforce Pell that are of aid. Moving to post-secondary completion, these are the two numbers that you saw show up before. I just wanted to show you how they persist, or how they fare with your peer and your state average, 86.4%, persisting to their second year. There's room for growth. That's a pretty pretty rich number, and then 69% earning that degree or certificate within 6 years. We expect, this number has grown since 2019 in Wayne County, we expect it to continue to grow. From the perspective on adult learners, understanding that things have changed dramatically, you'll see here, continuing ed, which is those credential spaces. A lot of individuals are making their way there, so as we leave them from graduating high school, there's still opportunities to move forward. And you see this here too with the total capture of Wayne County residents who are enrolled in the North Carolina Community College System. We have one of the best, if not the best, community college systems in the country, and we have within it probably the greatest institute to respect that community college system. So it's no surprise that it's being widely taken advantage of. Last two things I want to point out. So this apprenticeship piece, this number should be about, there's a goal set by Apprenticeship NC that 1% of the workforce, we have a 1% rate of those individuals that are engaged in an apprenticeship. An apprenticeship is not short-term. It's between 1 and 4 years. It requires thousands of hours of time. And what we're seeing now is pre-apprenticeships pop up. There's a great partnership between Wake Tech and Wake County Public Schools to lift up these apprenticeships. It's another aspect of CTE, but it's not completely CTE. It's got much more, it's more robust than that. So that number, honestly, could double very easily in the next 5 years, and you'd still need to catch pace. And lastly, the opportunity use. So what happens to a student age 16, 24, when they're not working and they're not in school? They get this label of opportunity youth. It means we've lost them. They're off the grid. They're off the radar. It is an inverse number of success. So you've got a healthy rate. 8% is good, but because Wake is so big, 8% is a lot of individuals out there. So these are the kind of things that I bring to communities when we try to do this work. Joanne leads a very powerful school to career council that's well connected. I'm doing work up with the Wake Forest Chamber. We're trying to stand up a Northeast Regional Business Alliance, taking 5 high schools, Wakefield, Wake Forest, Roosevelt, in Franklin Academy actually, as well as, I'm leaving one out, Heritage, and putting together a chamber-led effort so that we can really have cross-sector collaboration. Trying to do much more than that in Wake County is pretty challenging. It's a little different if I go up north, but what I do is I come up with these questions. So the impetus of the work, the kind of artifact of the work will come from the work that Wanda Denning does down in Fuquay Marina, the work that happens up in Wake Forest through this effort. We lost Barnett Creech, at least in her role, her CDC role at Zebulon Middle, but she set a powerful foundation. It's these individuals, it's these folks on staff that are willing to take that lead. So the last thing I want to end with is just our policy recommendations. We want to see Apprenticeship NC really become the work-based learning kind of pillar that we can count on. It's one of the most, we'll call it shakily funded entities out there in the state. We also want to see career exploration expand with this nccareers.org site, which complements a Major Clarity that Wake County uses and comes for free, so it's a nice resource. These education pathways, we're trying to get a digital transcript. This kind of came up before a little bit, but like following a student through, making sure that no matter where they are in their process, they have kind of a my chart for their path. And then the credential work. So Workforce Pro is going to be great, but it's not going to cover everything. It's going to be very particular. So I wanted to give you those because hopefully we'll get the General Assembly's ear in a more effective way this year, assuming there is some funding that comes out, and we'll see these elements improve a lot for the state and obviously for Wake County as well. Any questions for me?
Questions? Ms. Kaufman.
Can you talk a little bit more about the apprenticeship that you said that was pre-partnerships or pre-apprenticeship?
Yeah, so pre-apprenticeship is it's a tag-on to an existing apprenticeship. Usually, almost in every case, a business is not going to allow an apprenticeship to happen while a student is still in high school. They want them to graduate. They want a commitment, a hard commitment of time and longevity in place. So what Apprenticeship NC has set up is these pre-apprenticeships, and they exist across the country, but they've really shepherded them here in the state as a way for high schools to get in the game. So it's in that work-based learning space. It's a little bit more than maybe an externship or an internship. but it's not quite that full, robust apprenticeship. It allows them to continue to go to school, but get a full taste of a career pathway before they exit. So that way they can know, I'm not a year out now and I'm trying to make sense of, do I want to be an architect? Do I want to be a plumber? I've gotten a chance to be able to be exposed to those careers.
Is this an in-school class type of opportunity, a club, or is this something that they're doing like a dual enrollment type of opportunity that?
So it has lots of different flavors depending on the employer and the educational needs of the program. We have our first registered pre-apprentice in the district now in electrical trades, a young man from Rollsville High School. And this is an area of focus in the CTE program. You'll hear more about it from us when we come back later this spring with our local plan. We also have several registered apprentices through NC TAP. So we've been in this space and trudging along. So the student could be learning the technical skills in a high school class, they could be taking a Wake Tech CCP class, or the employer could have their own apprenticeship program where they do the related training. In addition, the student is working for that employer. When they're still in school, some of the scope of the work is a little bit limited, but they're able to be on the job and have the learning.
It's just become much more stackable at the K-12 level than it used to be. You used to have to wait to get into the workforce to do some of these things, and we've just found ways to bring it down.
I was just going to say, I know we're out of time, but maybe this is something we could do a deeper dive with Ms. Honeycutt on. I think you guys has something scheduled.
Absolutely. Maybe at a student achievement committee meeting where we can do a deeper dive into this. All right. Thank you. Thank you all.
Have to show the data.
Thank you.
Here's my email if anyone wants to reach out for a follow-up.
Perfect. Thank you both for this. And now we will hear from our Apex High School students with the SAD. So SAD stands for Students Against Destructive Decisions. So the superintendent and I and Chief Luke had the opportunity to actually meet them when Congresswoman Foushee did a tour at Apex High School. They shared some information on some of the work that they're doing. So we'll welcome Mr. Enns and our students. Welcome. You all can come on down.
All right, Board Chair Swanson, Dr. Taylor, board members, thank you for inviting us to present SAD, which you'll hear about in just a moment. As I overheard Mr. Swanson describing on a recent visit with Congresswoman Foushee, Apex High School has a couple of their organizations out on display. This is one of them. We were subsequently invited. I know that you guys had a lot of conversations, dialogue, and decisions. May this moment in time serve to center why we're here and grant somewhat of a reprieve. So I'll turn it over to Apex High School's one of Apex High School's assistant principal, Ms. Jeanette Hill, who will make introductions, and we'll go from there.
Hi, I'm Jeanette Hill, one of the assistant principals at Apex High School, and I have the pleasure of being the advisor for SAD, which is Students Against Destructive Decisions. And SAD nationwide is a national nonprofit that is 45 years old this year, and their focus is on youth health and safety. SAD itself is a network of high school student-led chapters. They also have college chapters, which we'll hear about in a little bit, that provide educational events for schools and communities on topics related to traffic safety, substance abuse, personal health and safety. SAD clubs attract students from a variety of backgrounds and equips them to talk with their peers about the importance of good decisions and healthy habits. And SAD is backed by a wide variety of national companies such as Honda, General Motors, AAA, State Farm, Mothers Against Drunk Driving, and the National Highway Safety Traffic Administration. And so I'm going to turn it over to 3 of our seniors. And while they talk, I'm the poster holder. And they will tell you just a little bit, because we could be up here all night, but we're not going to, I promise, but just a little bit about what SAD does to promote health and safety at the high school level. So you'll be hearing from Makar Fivkov. He is one of our seniors, and he's sporting his Students Against Disruptive Decisions t-shirt for us. Makar was our homecoming king this year. Makar is going to go to Wake Tech and do the 2-year college transfer program. You'll be hearing from Karen Wang, who some of you may recognize because she was our Spotlight on Student Award winner. Karen is going to go to UNCG and study art. You will be hearing from Trevor Easton, who is our SAD president, and Trevor is going to East Carolina University to study nursing. All right,
So before we get started, one of our events that we do, and you'll hear more about it later, is sleep awareness. It was actually last week. We're passing out decaffeinated tea and conversation cards. We call it Tea and Talk. We also hand out just regular tea during stress-free finals, so that because talking is a great way to relieve stress, especially during those stressful times like finals.
We had Police Appreciation Day, and we gave, the students had written cards to our resource officers. We have 2 resource officers at our school that work with us every day. They take care of our school and keep us safe. We also had a World Mental Health Day. We gave bingo cards to the students. And they also had tea time during that, tea and talk.
All right, so last week we had sleep awareness month. So basically this is the month where we are concerned about having a nice sleep before the danger. Sorry for my English. And so what you see right now, raise your hand if you're familiar or you know about Five Nights at Freddy's. I see plenty of you. And so I saw a huge correlation. This is my favorite game of all time. I play it every day, and I'm excited for the event with the actors from that movie this summer. And I was surprised when I saw a very, very big correlation between this game and the drowsy driving, because, let me explain to you in a short words. In the Five Nights at Freddy's game, you work as a Mike Schmidt, the security guard in a Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, a night shift from 12 a.m. to 6 a.m. And your main point is you sit in the security office and keep an eye on evil animatronics like Freddy Fazbear and his friends, Bonnie, Chica, and Foxy, who turn on to the free roam during the night. And your point is your reaction time in staying awake, because if you will nod off during your shift, if you close your eyes, there's a 99.9% chance that animatronics will get to you, because they will see you as an endoskeleton without the suit. And so this is connected with the driving. Just think about it. A car is not a static security office with the cameras and the doors and lights. This is a two-time machine moving at a high speed. And unlike the security office where you just sit and watch the danger, danger waits for you everywhere where you drive. And if you close your eyes,
it's not just a jump scare and a game over screen. This is what you will see in the game. This is the real danger. And so I came up with the idea, and so in the terms of the jargon, Five Nights at Freddy's stands for focus, stay focused. In other words, navigate, you need to choose the right route and navigate and stay. But this is the most dangerous hole in the game. Anticipate, you need to predict where the danger starts and predict as well. This is the stage where all the animatronics start moving from. And the finish your shift safely and finish your drive safely. And so here is the message that said on that monitor, like, watch out for dangers on the road, just like you watch out for evil animatronics at Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. And so sleep awareness happened last week. So last week it was Spirit Day. We were in pajamas, we were giving out the tantalks during the lunch, the decaffeinated tea, colorful pages, and in general we had a huge lots of fun.
So like what I said earlier, my name is Trevor Houston. I'm the SAD president at Apex High School. And I will be talking to you about kind of like what Carl was talking about roadway safety and what that means to us. So as I'm not sure if this is a Wake County thing or just an Apex High School thing, but juniors and seniors get their lunch pass, they get to go off campus. So obviously we want them to return uninjured, just how they left campus, and one of those things that we can do is seatbelt checks. We partner with our local police department, the Apex Police Department, and they are given incentives by, we've been using Chick-fil-A for little free meal vouchers, so we just check that you're all buckled up. And if everyone's buckled up, congratulations, you get a little free Chick-fil-A voucher. For also our underclassmen, we have this thing called the Quick Click Challenge. It is a really, really fun challenge where teams of 4 get into an ATV and they have to rotate and see how fastly they can buckle up in all 4 seats. The point of that challenge is supposed to be like, if you can, buckle up and run around in under 45 seconds, you should be able to do it on the road, and it should just become second nature. The last thing that Makar just talked about was sleep awareness. And then also, Red Ribbon Week is national. It's kind of like the national Don't Do Drugs Week. So we share information. We pass out little ribbons, little bookmarks, our little weed poles. During Red Ribbon Week, you can see our hallways are decorated with weed poles everywhere. And last thing that I did talk about earlier was stress-free finals. I know that now finals are kind of optional for everyone as long as you get your work in on time and all that stuff. But finals are still very, very stressful, and they just don't go away in high school. They still follow you to college, and there's really no final exceptions in college. So being able to establish those good, healthy finals habits, you're able to just prepare for your finals the best you can. So the next thing I'm going to talk about is just spreading the message of SAD. Right now in Wake County, there are only 3 SAD chapters. Ours, I believe it's Broughton and Wakefield. As much as we are impacting the lives of our students on campus, things like the Quick Click Challenge and seatbelt checks will be spread around the county just via my friends. But more equally, if not more important things like World Mental Health Day will not be shared. There are also things like the bingo card that Karen mentioned earlier that I made. There's a section where, as one of the spots, is just who's your counselor. We assign counselors based off of last names, and me, a student at Apex, my counselor is Miss Taylor. And my friend over at Cary can't reach out to Miss Taylor as their counselor. There's a lot of students that don't know who their counselor is because they've never had to reach out to their counselor. And it's just a really easy, simple thing that you might not need to go to your counselor for a mental health related thing, but college is sometimes asked for, council recommendations and things like that. And I think that's.
Community.
Oh, yes, sorry. So as I mentioned earlier, Ms. Hill mentioned a couple of companies that, SAD partners with, but we also have, obviously, our wonderful Apex Police Department. This would not be possible without, having a SAD chapter. SAD is a relatively free club to run. Obviously, we pulled some funding together for the Tea and Talk stuff, but that doesn't need to be there. If you just have at least just one student, stand on the table during lunch, and even if you just attracted one student, that's one student that knows, about World Mental Health Day or National Suicide Prevention Day that happens back in September, or just the importance of drug awareness and buckling up and things like that. We also not only get to know people inside our school that are in the club. I've never met Karen before this club. So not only do we get to meet people inside our club, but we also get to interact with other students across our school, and we get to help them join SAD. This is our second year of doing SAD at Apex High School, and I've met some really good people through that. Does anyone have any questions?
Thank you for bringing this awareness to us, and hopefully your challenge now, since you all have led this, that other schools will begin this, so therefore students are addressing the concerns they're seeing daily. And so I'm just open very briefly for folks that have comments or board members have comments. Dr. E?
You guys have just made my day. That's all.
Thank you.
Just the positive energy you guys have, and the way to change your own behaviors, peer to peer. I think that's a great idea.
Absolutely. Ms. Rice?
Oh, just amazing job, great programs. I think a lot of great things are happening out at Apex. You didn't know, I do know. Your previous Chief of Police, Mr. Jason Armstrong, is pretty fantastic. Other great programs you guys got going on there is about that reaches out to students and families that may have had some challenges in the Apex area, as you talked about SROs, and so they can actually send messages to the staff that says handle with care. Been talking to Dr. Taylor about moving that across Wake County, about handle with care. Not that they share anything that went on in the home, but it was a rough time, a rough night, and so they get to send a message to administration and teachers to just with that student that had a rough night, handle with care. It's a good program.
There is one thing that I forgot to briefly mention that Ms. Hill mentioned earlier. SAD, we have a whole bunch of high school chapters. There are some college chapters out there. As Ms. Hill mentioned earlier, I'm going to ECU. ECU does not have a current SAD chapter. I am working on getting that to have a SAD chapter. So even if your school does have a SAD chapter, you already know what the values, the morals of SAD is, and you can just jump right in. Or you can always start, a chapter like I am starting at ECU. Any materials are really easy to find online, like the bingo card, for example, and things like that.
Any other comments, Carl? Sorry.
I just wanted to say that was awesome and very inspirational to see. Not only did you initiate something like this, but you came before us, and you're trying to get other schools to do that, and keep going. You're doing a great job. You're going to inspire a lot of people. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Looking forward to more chapters across Wake County. So we will turn to our last item. We'll go to about 5:45 and then transition to the next room. this policy was lifted up in policy committee. I'm just going to, just for the time, I'm going to give a quick synopsis and turn over to Dr. Crane. But Ms. Edmonds, our policy chair, we kind of got some discussions on it, but we wanted to make sure that every board member had an opportunity to lay some eyes on this and give some voice. So, Dr. Crane, whenever you're ready.
So the questions mostly arose around the timelines and deadlines of making sure that we're meeting those for families that bring these grievances. And I know Mr. Ramey's not here, but he did make comment about he hopes to see us eventually move to a form type of model so that some of this is laid out in a different way. But I watched the meeting again and looked over my notes, and I think the main sticking points were about the deadlines.
Right, and making sure that the 10-day was going from 10 to 20. So that was the gist, which I just want to make sure that board members had an opportunity to share their grievance about the grievance policy, no pun intended. So however you want to kick it off, Dr. Crane? Or
I'm really here to listen.
Right, so one of the things,
what you want.
and so one of the things that we talked about and discussed, and the committee chair as well, is that you guys wanted to bring this back to discussion. But one of the main points that we wanted to discuss and make sure that we were able to capture is there were concerns about the timeline and being able to really make a decision and decide whether or not there need to be changes in the timeline to add that runway to allow those grievances to take place. And so we're here to capture all the notes based upon that.
So I'll defer to our former chair because this was a conversation he and I had about deadlines not being followed. So
Thank you, Chair Swanson. So briefly, because of the time, to recap, the issue was looking at the number of grievances and complaints that would come through the district in the previous 2 years. We would see a number of them, a significant number of them, where the deadlines in policy were not being met. Oftentimes, there might be a reason why the deadline was not met. An issue might have been more complex. It might have required more investigation. A witness may not have been responsive. And yet, even then, we were not necessarily always following the policy in terms of giving notice about why the 10 days was not being met. The concern here is that, one, if we have a policy, if we have a rule, we should follow it. Failure to do so undermines the legitimacy of the policy. It opens us up to challenge, and so either we need to do a better job of meeting the deadlines, which of course we all want to do, but we also need to be honest and take a look at things, and if the size of the district, if the structure of how complaints are reviewed are such that in 2026, 10 days may not be as realistic as it once was, with the number of students, the number of staff, the levels of staff that we have, that a change in deadline to maybe 20 days might be more realistic based on the actual time it's taking to thoroughly investigate and respond to the complaints and have a fair outcome. So, I think some of our interest was initially captured by complaints about missed deadlines, but as we investigate the reasons for the missed deadlines, I think there is a legitimate argument that just more time is needed to produce a thorough result. So we wanted to present that to you as an option for amendment to the policy.
I think the policy says it's 10 days, so I had threw out going from 10 to 20, but no more than that. So therefore, it's still a process and families are not waiting to hear. Also, staff not waiting to day 19 to notify families that the process happens. Not saying that's happened, but...
But to your point, Chair Swanson, if what we find is in doubling the amount of time, we still persist in late complaints, then it's not necessarily the time to process the complaint, as maybe there's a systematic issue. But this, I think, is a good faith effort to resolve that, being sensitive to the burdens on staff, but also want to be responsive to the families.
I agree. Ms. Evans?
So the first, under, let's see, Section E, the process for grievance. The first place that I see that the timeline is on staff is level 2, number 2, number 2, under E, level 1, where it says the principal shall schedule and hold a meeting within 10 school days. I think that's the first place where the staff is mentioned, because a lot of this references the person filing the grievance is the parent, guardian, or student, and they have 10 days to do so. Do you want to extend that as well?
So it was, for me, what I saw, and almost a Chair Harity can correct me, it was not on the school's part, it was once it got to central office, that next investigation part. So the school was adhering to that deadline, it was just a mishap and breakdown of communication at that next step. So if we want to be consistent and give the schools 20 days and the administration to do their part, that's fine, but I just did not want it to think that the narrative was going on the school level, which it was not.
Yeah, I had not, in my time as chair, I hadn't gotten complaints about school-based administrators missing deadlines as much as I did bottlenecks, here in our office trying to process the ones we had at the level 2.
If I may, with the level 2, it says that the superintendent shall provide a written response within 30 days.
So I'm looking at level 2, wait a minute. 30.
And staff, if I may, whenever we bring this back we need to have consistent numerical text in addition to spelling out because in multiple places it says 10 parentheses numeral 10, where in these other citations it's harder to see the number because it's only does that make sense?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Did you?
No.
Dr. Ng, and then I'll go to...
reading through this, I noticed where there was obviously a distinction between grievance and non-grievance, but towards the end of it, I think the terms complainant was brought up, but then it kind of got dropped off as a term. So should it be complainant if it's not a grievance? And should there be a more clear distinguishing in the front end of it between what a grievance is and what not a grievance? That's just my feedback.
So looking at this, I'm trying to think of like how long something could possibly stretch out if it goes through all of these levels and to the last possible day. And my concern with it being 20 days for, I guess, level 3 is really where we're talking about, is that then we could be talking after a semester is over. So one of the solutions also might be to increase communication from the office, like perhaps say, if the superintendent needs 30 days, but we'll have some sort of feedback within 15 days of like what is still taking, the time, that kind of thing. Or if we're going to move to 20 days for the district appeal, we could say, but you will receive, communication at the 10th day and then the 20th day, something like that. So that way it's not somebody who's waiting, with something that is obviously very serious to them and their child, waiting 30 days and then another 20 days, and then all of a sudden it's, the school year is over or something, and they're not hearing.
Did you have it? Raise your hand, Ms. Rice.
I did. So I was trying to get a little bit better clarity on why students will have to report to the principal their grievance if the grievance is actually the principal. So that's one thing that's concerning. The second part is, are we saying that it's going to double, if we're going to double the 10 days, are we also saying we're going to double the 20 days? Which is down in, I think Ms. Edmund was talking about it a little bit, down in, I think, E?
Level 2.
Would you like me to show? I apologize, Ms. Rice. Ms. Edmonds was correct when I was looking at it.
Okay.
I wasn't looking at it with my glasses, and I heard the 10 days.
Okay.
I wasn't reading in the right place. What we had talked about was extending the 20 days to 30 days. It was an extension of 10 days, not talking about extending the 10 days. I was looking at the wrong section, and I misspoke.
Okay, no worries. Yeah, but I am concerned about, I know we don't have our ombudsman yet and all that other great stuff that's supposed to be happening, and that I'm looking forward to our superintendent making sure that it happens. But I am concerned about students or families whom I get this a lot for me, that have to communicate with the principal as that layer when they're the one where the grievance lies. I don't know what that looks like, but it seems like a lot of pressure that's not fair.
Dr. Robinson, it looks like did you have something that you wanted to?
No, I'm listening intently, and Dr. Crane is over here typing intently as well, and we're trying to make sure that we capture all the notes. But just a point of clarity, as I'm listening and trying to make sure that I understand as well, we're trying to extend it to allow for staff additional time in order to address the issue. And the reason and the understanding of why is because staff is pretty much have come close to the deadline or past the deadline, and we want to make sure that we have metrics of accountability in place to provide support.
So, again, I know that we have limited time, and so I don't want to take too deep a dive, but we had numerous cases, again, they're protected by confidentiality, but where, in some cases, Dr. Robinson, we were months past the deadline. Literally months past what our written policy had stated. And it wasn't just one or two outliers. We had numerous, I would dare say the majority of cases where we did not meet the deadline. And so trying to look at reasons why we didn't meet the deadline, we've spoken to the superintendent, we've spoken to others about it. I know that the superintendent made a number of changes to really increase accountability, but one of the things that came back in the feedback was that the nature of certain complaints require a thoroughness of investigation, which sometimes just were not able to be accomplished within that 20 days. Oftentimes, if it required independent witness testimony, witnesses might not be responsive. The people that are in charge of the investigations have other job duties, and oftentimes, depending on the time of year, that was a barrier. So the idea that we could extend that time by a modest amount to see if that improves this, that's not going to address the situation where we're 90 days past the limit. But it should address those other cases where, it just is simply people playing phone tag, or someone can't get time off work to come in to meet for an interview. Thank you.
Just in conjunction with what Mr. Haggerty was saying, is I think there was times when there was like a grievance within a grievance, a layer upon another layer of grievance, and that becomes kind of convoluted in terms of the time frame, the timeline that we're supposed to follow. So I don't know how that would land in terms of being clear communication-wise to make sure that both sides know where we are at in timeline of each individual grievance within the grievance.
Right.
That makes sense to you.
And to those lines, I'm not sure if that also requires an RMP or some guidance to staff that policy is one thing, then the RMP guides that, I guess, checks and balances per se. So we're not violating our own policy, and folks are not waiting weeks or months to get some type of communication.
And so, Mr. Chair, that is where we want to see those kind of things reflected in the RMP. And so I think we're all on the same page in terms of giving that additional time for staff for those logistical reasons, a large number. But the communication, making sure that we reflect those parts in the RMP, that is where I would see that reflect, but certainly making the adjustments in the policy on time.
See, that's where I think, like, keeping it at 20 days, but again, going back to the communication and saying that some sort of communication is due to the family or to the student or whatever within 20 days, and then saying, that, because I feel like we're so much in triage mode around here a lot with how much we're doing, and if we extend it to 30, then some people are gonna get put off because, now we have 30 days, not 20 days. But if it's legitimately going to take longer because we can't find people, because we can't, because we need to collect more statements, or there is a new grievance that arose out of this, then at least having some sort of communication that goes to the family that says, we need to extend it because of these reasons, it is happening.
It's
What is happening
in
here?
our policy that we're supposed to do that, and that doesn't always happen.
Okay, and I'm just saying is that the language says this shall make reasonable efforts to meet it. It doesn't say they will do it in 20 days, and I think that's important. I think that's, those are specific words for a reason.
Can I just share something from an experience standpoint, that even as an area superintendent, chief of staff, when we have grievances and we need to extend past a particular deadline, we always are under advisement to reach out to whomsoever to make them aware that we will need the additional time, we will need to do X, Y, Z in order to meet the specifics of whatever is being asked as we apply. And so as I'm listening and I'm capturing notes, and I've captured them, the main concern that I'm hearing is that we as staff are not adhering to the policy, and as a result, we need to make sure that we put things in place to ensure that we are held accountable for those expectations.
Correct, because, and to Dr. Joe's point, that's some do, some do not, but I think if the only person that we're responsible for is the superintendent as a board, and his staff is not following policy, we cannot say anything to those staff. We have to address those concerns to the superintendent. But when those concerns have been addressed multiple times, I can remember numerous Friday meetings where this was a topic of discussion, where we were trying to triage this, but the process was not rectified. So in order to make this happen is through policy, which is the only thing that we're controlled as a board is through policy. And so I know I've had conversations with our attorneys about it, Attorney Malone and Attorney Hodges, about what is the mishap. And so extending that to additional time to give them that time to at least follow and have that communication could release some of that, and also give those families some trust in it as well. So that's why I think the two of us are pushing very hard for this, because we've seen and dealt with this for at least a year.
Would you like a communication timeline included in this as well, as that's been shared?
Yeah,
I think so.
Because you say there's policy about this, but I don't see it in here.
Well, it's supposed to be.
Okay.
Well, that's something that can be reflected in the RMP, not the timeline.
So I see Ms. Rice and then Ms. Edmonds.
Really quick, fair question, comment, or whatever, to the extent about the deadlines, just because I've gotten some emails on occasions around just accountability overall, not just from, we said the school-based level is doing great, we're doing their part, then we talked about central office, and let's also, be more mindful as a board when all the process has gone forth, their parents who are expecting to have a hearing and their hearings are canceled. Are we still within that time frame that our policy refers to? And so if we're going to be transparent, let's be transparent, and let's also make sure we follow policies. And I mean, because I've had health challenges. I try to reach out to Ms. Allen in ahead of time before my stuff so she can find a replacement for me. But as a board, if we're sitting here, and it sounds like we're very intentional about this policy, so for families to get what they need, but let's also be intentional about the fact that if we put staff through this to do what they need to do appropriately, let's also make sure that we actually have the hearing for the families who work very hard to get their voices heard with their student, that we don't cancel on them, or definitely don't have a rotating space for alternatives for ourselves with that. And I say that because I've had a couple of families that were concerned about other appeal pieces and didn't necessarily get to have their having to cancel. So that's just a thought of transparency and trust, building our trust with our community.
Yeah, so that was a whole nother conversation, but I think we can dive into those as well. So quickly we'll go to Mr. Evans and then Chair Mr. Hager.
Does this one have an RMP?
I'm not sure this has an RMP.
Or would that be new? One moment, please. Processing the report.
this one does not have an R&D. Thank you.
And just the last thing is, it's not part of the issues we brought up with the timeline, but for a future meeting, perhaps in a policy meeting, I would like to go to Ms. Rice's point, because most policies in the corporate world, if it's a whistleblower policy, it's an anti-bullying and harassment policy, all of those internal governance policies usually do have some sort of alternative reporting vehicle if the complaint is to be made if against the person you're supposed to report it to. So we should make sure we have something similar.
Thank you.
I think that, and we are close on time with this one, but I think we've gotten a little bit more than where we were when the policy was introduced. So at least this gives this policy some more teeth, and there's some more discussion that took place that did not get to take place at that meeting, that you all can take it back to policy and, bring this forward. So with that, I think, Dr. Taylor, unless you...
Yeah, the only thing I was going to say is, we appreciate the idea of knowing that the volume can be greater and to give that additional time for staff. But I want staff to be clear, and the board's intent is clear as well as the superintendent, that violation of the policy that's, is the word willful, that's what we want to avoid. Those should be extenuating circumstances, so this is an opportunity to give the board, to give staff grace, but at the same time, there's the expectation that we need to get this done within the time frame that the policy allows. And we appreciate the board giving that grace, but knowing that is the expectation.
Perfect. Thank you all for allowing us to allow me to go over a little bit. So I thought it was important to get through this robust agenda. So we will convene in the next room. Bless you. We'll convene in the next room for board meeting.
I'm sorry.